And what's beautiful is that on Fridays we're told to read Surah Al-Kahf, obviously, and within Surah Al-Kahf, everybody knows that there's the story of Sayyidina Musa and Al-Khadr, you know, Prophet Moses with this man who has been given this knowledge from on high. And throughout the journey that Prophet Moses has with this man is him constantly trying to make sense of something that he doesn't actually have the capacity to make full sense of. And the constant sort of encouragement that this individual is giving Prophet Moses is, "Alam aqul laka innaka lan tastati'a ma'iya sabra." And I told you that you're not going to be patient with the things that I'm doing. In other words, he keeps um, instructing Sayyidina Musa to be patient. Like, I know that you don't have full knowledge of this, and it's because of that that you have to be patient. Trust in what it is that is happening. Trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ultimately, and be patient. And that story that I mentioned is basically a story of this individual who, um, you know, goes on this climb, one of these solo expeditions that people oftentimes will do. He goes ice climbing up a mountain and he's alone. And eventually the sun disappears and the night enters and he realizes that, he's still like thousands of feet up and climbing and he has to get down and there's no lights. He can't see anything. And all of a sudden, the rope unhinges and he starts to free fall. And basically, in the middle of the fall, he does as every human being generally will in this moment, closes his eyes and says, "Ya Allah, save me," you know, in some fashion like that. Some people may say, like, "Oh God," And so, subhanAllah, the rope catches and he's saved. And now he's just hanging midair. And he realizes, like, I'm not dead, I'm good. But he can't see anything and he's just hanging there. And the cold is extremely cold, it's unbearable. And he's very scared, obviously. He doesn't know what's going on, can't see anything. And then all of a sudden he hears a voice say, "Cut the rope, cut the rope." And he's not sure what this is exactly. And the voice says again to him, "Cut the rope." And so he realizes that this isn't actually like his own chatter going on in his mind, that this is divine inspiration, ilham, like a true message being given to him. But obviously, he's very afraid. Like, he can't see anything. He doesn't know how far up he is. And so he thinks, like, can't cut the rope. And so again, the voice says to him, "Cut the rope." And he's again kind of in fear. "I can't do it." The voice third time says to him, "Trust what you're hearing and cut the rope." So he knows that it's true, but he's paralyzed by fear and he just can't do it. He cannot bring himself to do something like this. The night passes, the like wind and the freezing temperatures obviously take hold of his entire body. And as the morning comes in, a group of rescue workers find this man frozen to death, hanging just 3 feet from the ground. And so, he didn't know. Had he known that he was 3 feet from the ground, it wouldn't have been an issue. In other words, he couldn't see. But therein lies the sort of instruction for us. Like, how many of us cry out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we are falling, when life has really hit us in a way that, we don't know where the light is at the end of this tunnel. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually gives us an answer. But the answer, it doesn't come with a sort of spotlight to give us everything that we want as human beings living in a sort of material world to be able to make that decision for ourselves. And so, sometimes it will come as an inspiration. Sometimes it'll come as a teacher who says something to you that seems to hit in a very specific way, or a parent or a friend, or it's just simply in your engagement of the Quran itself, you know, and yet we're still sort of held back. And it's important for us to realize that factor of like, I need to be in control is actually a delusion. And what that does is it causes us to be in fear and it actually paralyzes us as a result of which. And in so doing, then we freeze spiritually, like we're frozen spiritually. We cannot move forward. And so it's important for us to recognize that these subtle intuitions, oftentimes that come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where we know that this is what we're supposed to do, necessitate for us to cut the rope, to do what we know is the right thing to do, even if we can't see fully what the horizon has in store. Trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.